Ah, Sherlock Holmes. Well, to be honest, I wasn't fully honest last episode about him, because you're not necessarily playing him in the game 221B Baker Street.
RetroKork.
221B Baker Street is based on the board game of the same name. In the Commodore 64 version, you play as one of up to 4 characters, either as individuals or as teams. Irene Adler, Inspector Lestrade, Dr. Watson, or Sherlock Holmes himself. You get to pick a case out of the 30 cases that are included with the game on the other side of the game disc, or if you have one from a case disc, then you load the main game. While you wait for the game board to be loaded, read the introduction to the case from the casebook and keep that casebook nearby as to reference it again when the case is going on. After all, it might be useful to remind yourself of the case. So, the game board is presented in an isometric manner with you starting at 221B Baker Street. On this game board, which unfortunately is not coming with music, I think they probably thought it would be detracting to have music in the game during the rolling and moving phase. You roll a die, you move that amount of squares, reach places, and there you learn clues which you write down on a sheet of paper. No, there's no in-game note system, especially because the clues, they can be encoded when playing against other players, so they don't get that clue that they shouldn't have, that they haven't earned, though they're allowed to try breaking the code. So, in the game, of course, you move around the board, find clues, combine them mentally, pick up a badge or two, you can only hold one though, at Scotland Yard in the top left corner of the board, and then you head back to 221B Baker Street, where you answer a quiz regarding the case details. If you answer all questions correctly, you will be presented with an explanation of what went down. If you fail, you just lose your badge and have to go to Scotland Yard again to get a new one. And of course, the other people around you will know that your conclusions weren't correct, giving them a bit of an edge. Now, if you manage to solve the case by answering the questions properly, and everyone read the explanation, you will be presented with a ranking based upon how many clues you gained yourself to solve the case. Now, of course, there's no shame in solving it with the maximum amount of clues, which is 14, as long as you're the first to do so. But, of course, if you want to give yourself a challenge, you can try doing these cases with less and less and less, up to 0 clues, which means, yeah, you just get lucky if you're not spying on other players and cracking their codes. Now, badges. Badges have an additional ability besides solving the case. Using a badge, you can lock a location where you get a clue, and thereby prevent other players from entering them without the use of a key. Now, you start off every game with one key, so that's not a problem for the first location, but it could be problematic if you don't know where to find a locksmith. Well, the locksmith is located in the bottom right corner of the game board, and there you can get a new one, and you can only hold one. The game also includes secret passageways which you can enter via the locked manhole covers in the top left and bottom right. But you'll never know where you'll return to daylight. However, they are an alternate route into locked buildings, which, strangely enough, will remain locked even after you leave. And if you need a cab to any location on the board, there's the carriage depot, where cabs are available for free. However, the depot is in the top right of the map or board. Now, the game board is relatively simple. The animations of the characters are quite cute, and the fact that this game uses speech synthesis can be quite surprising when you, for example, don't expect the bartender at the pub talking to you, for example. They just make you jump a bit after you've been walking around on the rather quiet board, where the only thing you hear are your steps on the cobblestone. Though, based on the sounds, it could be asphalt. I assume this is an appropriate adaptation of the board game. And the biggest flaw, the hint system, namely that all clues are on one page for each case, that clue system is properly fixed and this issue is addressed. The game even adds a new challenge by allowing the use of encrypted clues, which other players may try to break. Now, admittedly, not every clue is a criminologically interesting thing. In fact, some of the clues may be hard on non-British players or people who aren't native speakers. So yes, to sum it up, the game is not necessarily elementary for foreigners, but unlike the board game, you can adequately play it by yourself. Though, for bigger parties, the board game still is a little bit better because it allows up to 6 players. Okay, now with Sherlock Holmes being over, we'll take a look at something different. A Rockstar simulation. Specifically, Rockstar Ate My Hamster.